Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go.
I stare at the empty plate in front of me. It's porcelain white, slightly chipped at the edges, a silent witness to all the words I haven't spoken yet. The overhead light flickers, casting a dull glow that makes the plate shine dully, like a pale moon in a dark room. I'm sitting at the table, elbows on the worn wooden surface. Around me, the house feels eerily quiet, even though I hear distant chatter from the living room. My relatives are out there, talking. My wife is out there, trying to keep up appearances. But here I am, hands clasped, heart pounding, breathing so softly I can almost believe no one hears me. I'm not sure when I'll say the first word, or if I'll say it at all. I want to record everything I remember as if I'm giving a statement in front of a judge, calm, precise, unflinching. But my mind stutters. Half the time I'm numb. The other half, I'm raging inside. The plate doesn't respond. It's just my reflection staring back from the smooth surface. I see the faint lines around my eyes, the tension in my jaw. My shoulders feel stiff. I wonder how we ended up here. How I ended up in a state of near silence, holding onto a secret that tears me apart. Outside, there's laughter. My mother's voice. She's trying to ask my wife, Amelia, about some recipe. Amusing, really, a conversation about cooking, about nourishment. When I'm physically sick at the thought of any more pretense. We used to have family dinners in this dining room. The sunlight used to spill through those sheer curtains. My son would giggle as I tried to coax him to eat his peas. Now I can't stand looking at that same table, at those same plates. Something irreparable taints every corner of this place. My wife said to me earlier, "Please, just for tonight, keep it together." They drove all the way from Illinois to see us. We can't let them suspect anything. Her voice had a slight tremor. A year ago, I would have rushed to comfort her. Now, I just nodded, as if I were no more than a wooden doll. Emotions flicker through me in short bursts: anger, bitterness, regret, then vanish, leaving me hollow. I don't even know which of us I pity more. Minutes pass, maybe hours, before I finally push away from the table. My footsteps echoed as I walk down the hall. The chatter in the living room grows louder. I lean into the doorway and see them all. My mother, my two sisters, my wife. They look up. Amelia quickly puts on a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. The tension is thick as honey. I murmur something about having a headache, that I'll be back in a moment. My mother starts to rise, concerned, but I wave her off gently. "I'm fine, Mom." My voice sounds too formal, too rehearsed. Amelia gives me a fleeting look, one that could mean worry or guilt or both. I can't read her the way I once could. I walk back into the hallway, and for a moment I'm struck by how the walls seem narrower. The entire house feels as though it's shrinking around me. Usually, gatherings like this used to fill the place with warmth. But now, there's a thick tension, an undercurrent of uneasy silence behind the forced small talk, and I'm the silent pivot around which it all tilts. I close myself in the bedroom for a moment. The bed is made neatly, the pillows fluffed. Everything looks normal. Except it's not. My mind flicks back to that day in the car, the day I found the little glass vial of perfume lodged between the seat and the mat. A perfume neither Amelia nor I use, a scent too heavy, too musky, too foreign. I'd picked it up, turned it over in my hands, and felt an inexplicable chill. I told myself it could be a coworker's or maybe left behind by her niece. That's what Amelia claimed. I was just driving my niece to the airport. For a while, I let that lie linger because the alternative was too painful. Then came the day I recognized the same smell on Tom's breath. My friend, my ex-teammate, my so-called brother in arms. That mixture of cologne and sweat, and something primal. And suddenly, I realized exactly how that perfume bottle ended up in my car. I didn't confront her right away. You'd think a man who discovered that kind of thing would explode on the spot. maybe shatter windows with his rage. But I held it in. My father left when I was a kid, and I remember my mother telling me, "Men hold the house up, even if the walls crack." So I held, and I held, and I held. I told no one, not even Amelia. I waited. Maybe I hoped I was wrong. Or maybe I wanted to catch her more blatantly, to remove all doubt. It's sick to admit, but I was afraid to point a finger until I had undeniable evidence. Maybe that's the accountant in me. Fear of inaccuracy, of jumping to conclusions. But the day came when doubt was no longer possible. It happened in the backyard. I recall hearing low voices, a stifled laugh. I stepped outside, my heart hammering. The gate to the little shed was slightly open, that old wooden structure where we keep paint cans and tools. I edged closer, breath short, and I saw shadows moving inside. At first I thought it was a break-in. Then I recognized that laugh. Her laugh, hushed, but distinctly hers. I froze. My chest felt tight. I couldn't see clearly, only partial silhouettes. I heard the sound of lips meeting. A gasp, a low moan. My wife's voice, and his. I could almost taste the betrayal in the air. I told myself, "Leave now. Go back inside." But my legs wouldn't budge. A sick curiosity, or maybe shock, held me there. I strained my eyes, and the shed door creaked open a crack. The first thing I noticed was her hair. Amelia's hair pinned up haphazardly, and Tom's hand running down the curve of her waist. I swallowed hard, trying to remain still, though my pulse pounded in my ears. They were pressed together, like the beginning of some feverish dance. I heard a faint whisper, his voice murmuring her name. Then that unmistakable hush that belongs to lovers who think they're alone. It's not that they were fully unclothed, but enough to reveal more intimacy than a friend should ever see. The sliding of a shirt, her bare shoulder catching the last glimmer of fading sunlight. It was an image seared into my brain. I could have charged in, fists swinging, demanded an explanation. But something in me broke. I backed away. My entire body trembled with a mixture of shame, fury, and heartbreak. I stumbled into the house, shut the door quietly, and ended up in the kitchen with a cold beer in my hand, though I don't recall grabbing it. My throat felt dry. My hand shook so badly I spilled half the bottle. That was the moment I knew the truth was beyond denial, and for some twisted reason, I still stayed silent. Sitting at the table that evening, pretending everything was fine, remains the hardest thing I have ever done. Amelia eventually came in. She tried to catch my eye. She must have guessed I suspected something, but I refused to give her the relief of a confrontation. Maybe I wanted to punish her with silence, the same way my father once punished my mother. A cycle repeating. However, the difference was, I wouldn't walk away. I wouldn't leave my son, even if the betrayal cut me deeper than any wound I'd ever known. Some nights after that, I'd lie awake and watch her sleep. I'd wonder if she was dreaming of him. My tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall, because real men don't cry, right? My mother raised me to stand tall, hold my pain. So the tears never came. Instead, there was a vile coil in my chest that tightened day by day, the bitterness corroding me from within. Time passed in a numb haze. Then came the next blow. I realized, when I looked at my son, that he didn't quite resemble me. This is a thought no father wants to entertain. He has my wife's hair color and her eyes, but I always assumed somewhere in there was a piece of me. Then a friend, some well-meaning friend, joked about how my boy didn't have my chin or my build. Something small, but it lodged in my mind. I told myself I was overreacting, but the paranoia wouldn't let go. Amelia tried to reassure me. "You're being silly. He's your son, of course he is." But the more she insisted, the more I felt a creeping dread. So I took a test, a DNA test. I waited in that clinic, feeling like a criminal. The nurse was polite but distant. That was the day I truly felt I might break. The results arrived by email in the middle of the night. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, the glow of the phone washing over my tired face. My hands shook. I clicked on the attachment. My eyes scanned line after line until I reached the conclusion. No match. My ears rang. I wasn't sure if I was breathing. I felt outside myself, as though I was reading about someone else. For a few terrible seconds, I wanted to tear the phone in half and pretend it was a mistake. But numbers don't lie. The silent condemnation stared back at me from the screen. My boy wasn't mine. The child I'd read bedtime stories to, taught how to throw a football, comforted through fevers and nightmares, was not my own flesh and blood. But let me be clear, I didn't hate my son. I hated myself. I felt worthless, humiliated, every bit of self-esteem drained. Men hold the house up, my mother's voice repeated in my head. But it felt like the house collapsed on top of me that night. My mind flicked to Tom, to his easy grin, his strong arms, the ways he would pat my boy on the head, call him little champ. How long had he known? Or did he even suspect? And still, I stayed quiet. I couldn't bring myself to confront Amelia. Not directly, not yet. Something in me had died. Each day, I walked around like a ghost, plastering a polite expression on my face for work, for neighbors, for our friends. In public, I was the same friendly, mild-mannered husband who put his arm around his wife's waist. But inside, I churned with raw resentment. Eventually, I realized I couldn't simply exist like that. I needed to confirm if the father was Tom, or if the father was some unknown man. But the next event overshadowed all that. Tom fell ill. Leukemia, they said, a rare form. He needed a bone marrow transplant. Apparently, the hospital ran tests among family and close acquaintances. He had few relatives capable or willing to help. Then Amelia came to me one night, tears streaming, trembling from head to toe, begging, "Please, James, help him. He's going to die if we don't find a donor." I remember standing there, feeling the cold floor under my feet. I said nothing. In my mind, I was screaming, "Die? Let him die. Why should I care about saving him?" But some deeper part of me, that same foolish part that believes in justice and fairness, refused to let me utter those words. I agreed to get tested. Maybe a part of me wanted a final piece of evidence. If I was a close match for Tom, maybe it'd confirm he fathered my son. It was all so twisted. And yet, the results came back. I was compatible. Enough to save his life. When I received that phone call from the clinic, something in me snapped. I quietly accepted I would do it. Donate my marrow. Be the hero or the fool. However you want to see it. But it wouldn't come free. I told Amelia I had conditions. We were standing in our bedroom, the curtains drawn against the dusk light. She looked at me with reddened eyes, pleading. "What conditions? I'll do anything. Just help him." I took a slow breath, turned to her, and said, "He leaves this city. He goes away. For good. No explanation, no goodbye. No money, no contact. He takes the new chance I'm giving him, and he disappears from our lives. Or he doesn't get it. Period." Amelia froze. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. Finally, she whispered, "That's so cruel." I shrugged. I felt hollow. Crueler than what he did to me. To us. You want me to save him. Fine. But he's gone. You tell him that. She stared at me as though I'd just stabbed her. But I wasn't done. I lowered my voice. "This is my only condition. If he refuses, he dies. That's between him and God." She broke down sobbing. I watched her tears with an odd detached fascination. Once upon a time, I would have embraced her. But that me no longer existed. Eventually, she composed herself enough to ask, "Why are you doing this?" I answered in a near whisper, "Because even though I hate him, even though I hate you sometimes, I'm not a murderer." Then I turned away, heading toward the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I heard her muffled sobs through the wood. Tom accepted. According to Amelia, he hardly hesitated. He said yes. She told me the next day, her face streaked with tears. I just nodded. Of course he would agree. Tom wasn't the kind of man who'd choose pride over life. He'd jump at any chance to survive. And so began the medical process. I remember the hospital corridors, white walls, the smell of antiseptic, the squeak of rubber soles on polished floors. A perfect stage for my personal tragedy. Amelia was there, eyes puffy, biting her nails whenever I met her gaze. Tom avoided me as much as he could, except for one moment in the hallway. He was hooked up to an IV, looking weak, hair slightly thinning from initial treatments. When our eyes met, he opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. An apology, maybe, or a plea. But I raised a hand, cutting him off. "We're not doing this. I'm helping you." Nothing more to say. He just swallowed hard and lowered his gaze. I turned my back on him. I went through with the donation. The procedure was uncomfortable, painful even, but I felt a grim satisfaction with each needle prick, as if it were a penance or a final testament to the man I once was. When I woke from sedation, Amelia was there by my bedside, silently crying. She tried to place her hand over mine, but I pulled away. I asked about Tom's condition, half out of genuine concern, half out of morbid curiosity. "He's stable," she whispered. "They say the transplant might work." I closed my eyes, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. Now it was done. He kept his word. After he was strong enough for discharged, Tom left. Packed his things, resigned from his gym job, disappeared from our neighborhood without a farewell. He didn't even say goodbye to Amelia in person, from what I know. Maybe they spoke on the phone or exchanged messages. I never asked. All I know is she came home that evening, eyes rimmed red, voice hoarse, as though she'd spent hours crying. And I felt no triumph, no righteous victory. Only emptiness. That was months ago. In that time, my life has devolved into this silent pantomime of normalcy. We haven't told our relatives. We haven't told our son. They only know Tom had to move for better medical care. If they suspect more, they don't say. Amelia and I occupy the same house, the same bed, technically, but there's a wall between us that neither tries to tear down. She looks at me sometimes like I'm a stranger, or a shell of the man she married. Maybe she's right. I feel like a ghost in my own home. I stand now in the bedroom, hearing the voices from the living room. My family came to visit, eager to see how we are, to check on me because they heard rumors about health issues. Amelia invited them, probably hoping normalcy would rub off on us. But there's no normal left. There's only the facade of it. I step out into the hallway again. Time to face them. In the living room, my mother stands up. She fusses about my color, my posture. She tries to touch my forehead, as if checking for a fever. I reassure her I'm fine. Amelia stands by the couch, arms crossed protectively over her abdomen, as though hugging herself. My sisters shuffle around awkwardly, sensing that something's off. The tension is suffocating. A small talk attempt drifts around, unanswered. Then Amelia, with forced brightness, suggests that we all have dinner. My mother nods, relief crossing her face. But I take in a slow breath, glancing at that empty plate on the dining table. Something in me stirs. This is the moment I realize I can't keep silent forever. My mother starts leading everyone toward the table, but I speak up. "Wait," I say. My voice is calm, level, as though delivering a statement in court. They all freeze. I see Amelia's shoulders tense. She gives me a warning look, like she's silently begging me to remain composed. But I can't. Not now. "Please," I say, "sit down, all of you." My sisters exchange worried looks. My mother frowns. Slowly, they settle around the table. Amelia stands behind a chair, her knuckles white where she grips the wood. The overhead light flickers again, and outside, a car passes by, headlights flashing across the room. I hear the distant noise of traffic. Here, though, the hush is deafening. I rest my hands on the back of my own chair, trying to steady my breathing. "I've been silent about a lot of things," I begin. My words sound oddly formal, but my chest constricts with raw emotion. You came here to see if we're all right. We're not. My voice cracks on that last word, surprising me. Amelia's eyes well with tears, but she bites her lip, staying quiet. No one dares speak. The hush of the house is so deep, it feels like the air might shatter. Slowly, I outline the barest facts, careful not to mention Tom by name, not directly. But I let them know there was a betrayal, that I discovered a deception, that I saved a man I despise because it was the right thing to do, and that I'm not the father of the boy I have been raising. The shock on my sister's faces is immediate. My mother pales and looks at Amelia with eyes full of pain and confusion. Amelia stares at the floor, tears dripping silently onto the rug. No one knows what to say. At first, there's an explosion of questions. My mother demands to know when this happened. How? Why? My sisters speak over each other, outraged and scared. Amelia still says nothing, just stands there, tears rolling down her cheeks. Finally, I raise my hand for silence. The hush returns. I don't need to hear your apologies, I say, addressing Amelia in a voice so cold I almost don't recognize it. I've heard enough. We're in this mess. My mother, my sisters, they deserve the truth. Because I'm done living in secrets. Amelia finally opens her mouth. Her voice is shaky. I never meant for any of this. I'm sorry. She looks at my mother, tries to offer a trembling explanation. It was a moment of weakness. And She stumbles over her words. My mother lowers her gaze, tears in her own eyes now. My sisters sit there, expressions torn between anger and pity, unsure where to direct their feelings. I could keep going, unloading every ounce of bitterness. But the moment I see my mother cry, I stop. A jolt of guilt runs through me. I realize that I've put her in a terrible position. She doesn't deserve to see me break down like this. Slowly, I exhale and step back from the table. There's nothing left to say that won't turn this evening into a shouting match. I drop my gaze to that empty plate again. How fitting that it remains untouched, like the promise of a family meal that will never happen. Excuse me, I say with quiet finality. I walk away, ignoring the voices calling my name, ignoring the tears, ignoring the stab of regret in my chest. I stride down the hallway, push open the front door. The evening air hits me, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the rustle of leaves. I breathe in the city's noise, letting it wash away the suffocating hush that followed me in the house. I can't stand being in there, with all those eyes on me, with the reflection of my failure at every turn. I find myself out on the porch, leaning against the rail. It's drizzling, a cool mist that settles on my hair, my shoulders. I press my palms onto the wooden surface, letting the chill seep through. My chest tightens again, and I fight the urge to punch something, to break something. Instead, a strangled sound leaves my throat. Not a sob, not quite a curse, just raw pain. I realize I'm trembling. I want to blame her, blame Tom, blame fate. But there's a voice in my head telling me I failed too. I neglected her. I let resentment grow. I shut down. Maybe if I'd been more attentive, more present, who knows? But it's too late for all that. Behind me, the front door opens. Amelia steps out. I don't turn to face her. She hesitates, then comes closer. I feel her presence at my side, though I keep my eyes trained on the wet sidewalk. She stands there, silent, for a long moment. Finally, she murmurs, "They left. I told them it was best." I nod. Another long silence. I can hear the raindrops tapping on the porch roof, the muted roar of a passing truck. Amelia shifts her weight. "I'm sorry," she says again, voice trembling. "I don't know how else to." "Don't," I say, quiet but firm. "We're past that. I've given you what you wanted. I saved him." Her breath hitches. "And now he's gone," she whispers, so softly I barely catch it. I turn my head to her. There's a flicker of anger in my chest. That was the deal, wasn't it? She nods, tears brimming. I know. She manages, voice thick. It's all so final. I press my lips together, fighting the urge to shout. She wants to keep mourning him, this man who fathered our son, who nearly destroyed me. But I clamp down on my anger, because I've been violent with words in the past, and it gained me nothing but regret. Instead, I keep my tone controlled. That was my condition, and you accepted it for his sake. A tear slips down her cheek. I know, she repeats, and I don't blame you. I wish none of this happened. She looks at me then, really looks, and I see the reflection of my own pain in her eyes. Maybe she's sincere, maybe she's remorseful beyond measure, but I can't let it melt me. Softly, I say, so do I. I turn away again, staring at the road shimmering under streetlights. After a few seconds, Amelia's voice breaks the silence. What do we do now? I close my eyes. We raise our son. We pretend. Until he's old enough for the truth. Then we decide how much to tell him. But as for us, I don't know. The emptiness in my heart is so vast, I'm not sure there's any path forward. I think of the man I used to be. Optimistic, loving, proud to call her my wife. Now all that's left is a hollow figure who keeps his promises out of a sense of twisted honor. She sniffles, takes a step closer. I can feel the warmth of her body in the cool night air. It stirs conflicting impulses in me. Part of me wants to hold her, to feel some semblance of closeness, to numb the loneliness. Another part wants to recoil, remembering her pressed against him, hearing those whispered moans in the shed. My jaw clenches. She must sense the turmoil, because she doesn't touch me. Instead, she says, I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. I can't speak. I just nod once, curtly. Without another word, she goes back into the house, leaving me alone with the drizzle and the ache in my chest. Time slips by. Eventually, the rain stops, and I hear the wind rustling leaves down the sidewalk. Headlights cut across the street like ghosts. My mind replays everything. The baseball games with my son, the day I discovered the perfume, the tense hush in the hospital, Tom's expression as I walked away. My entire life feels like a series of painful images. And I'm just here, a silent witness to my own tragedy. I wander down the porch steps, onto the wet grass. My footsteps sink slightly into the mud. The sky overhead is cloudy. No stars, no moon. My breath emerges in faint puffs. At the far edge of the yard, I spot the shed. My gut twists. With slow steps, I move closer. The door stands ajar. I can see a leftover can of paint, a broken rake handle on the ground, some scattered tools. It's so mundane. Yet my heart thunders as I approach. It's the place I first saw them, or enough of them to know. My mind conjures the memory. Amelia's hushed laugh, Tom's silhouette, the heat of their stolen moment. I stand there, in the same spot, fighting the surge of nausea. For a moment, I want to burn this shed to the ground. But then I realize that it'd be too easy. Flames might even be cathartic, but they wouldn't purge me of the memory. I step inside, feeling the rough wooden boards under my shoes. The smell of dust and metal. My phone buzzes in my pocket, maybe a message from my mother or sisters, worried about me. I don't look. Instead, I place a hand on the rickety shelf where old paint cans gather rust. This is where I lost my illusions. My illusions about love, about trust, about fatherhood. A simple, shabby shed. I let out a long breath. A faint trickle of some leftover rain drips from the roof onto the floor. With each drip, I think, I gave him my marrow. I gave him life. And in exchange, I took away his place here. Is that justice or cruelty? I think about the day I signed those hospital forms. I wanted to prove I wasn't just a vengeful man. But maybe I was. Maybe this was the darkest form of vengeance, giving him the precious gift he needed only to banish him forever. And the worst part, I can't even feel victorious about it. There's no satisfaction, No sense of righteous closure, only a dull ache. I close my eyes, leaning on the shelf. My breathing is shallow. Part of me wonders if I should just run. Leave this house, leave this city, let Amelia figure it out on her own. Then I remember my son, the boy who still calls me dad, the boy who sees me as the protector, the safe haven. Whatever blood flows in his veins, he's grown up with me as his father. I can't abandon him. That's not who I am. So I leave the shed, head back inside. The house is mostly dark now. I see a light under the guest room door, presumably where Amelia is. She must be tossing and turning, or maybe crying into her pillow. I feel a brief pang of empathy before reminding myself she caused this. Then I catch my own reflection in the hallway mirror. My eyes look haunted, older than they did even a few months back. Men hold the house up. But what if the house is in ruins? I force myself to step into the bedroom we once shared. It feels sterile, the bed too neat, the air too still. I sit on the edge of the mattress, elbows on my knees, palms pressed to my face. I try to gather my thoughts, but everything whirls in a chaotic mess. Memories of late-night confessions, laughter in the early days, the wedding vow I once took so seriously, all shattered. Eventually, exhaustion drags me under. I sleep fitfully. Dreams haunted by images of Tom, of hospital rooms, of my son calling me from a distance. I wake at dawn, heart pounding, the bedsheets tangled around my legs. There's a moment of disoriented calm, before reality crushes me again. The next few days pass in a fog. My mother calls, worried. My sisters send messages. Amelia tries to talk to me a couple of times, but I can't bring myself to have a real conversation. She respects the boundary for the most part, perhaps sensing I'm on the edge. The only person I interact with normally is my son. I drive him to school, ask him about his classes, help with homework. He's only 6, but he's bright, sensitive. I see the confusion in his eyes. He senses the tension between his mother and me, but he doesn't know the reasons, and I pray he never does, at least not now. One afternoon, I find him coloring in the living room. He's drawing a family portrait. Me, Amelia, himself, and some sort of dog. We don't even have a dog, but kids dream. He's smiling to himself as he carefully colors in each figure. My chest tightens. Here we are, a happy family on a piece of paper. Dad, he says, glancing up at me, can we get a dog? His eyes sparkle with hope. I try to return his smile. Maybe one day, I reply. My voice comes out strained. That night, after he goes to bed, Amelia approaches me in the kitchen. She's wearing a simple t-shirt and pajama pants, hair pulled back, face etched with worry. I sense she wants to reach out. The tension is suffocating. She steps closer, biting her lip. You're a good father, she says softly. My jaw tightens, but I manage to keep my voice neutral. I'm trying. She looks down at her hands, twisting them nervously. I know you're hurting. She swallows hard. I just want you to know that, no matter what, he sees you as his dad. He loves you so much. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. She moves a little closer, the smell of her light perfume drifting toward me. Once upon a time, that scent made me feel comfort, attraction. Now it triggers a swirl of conflicting emotions. I step back slightly, and she stops. A flicker of pain crosses her face. I'll give you space, she whispers. Days turn to weeks. The wound remains raw, but I keep functioning. I keep going to work. I pick up groceries. I fix the dripping faucet in the bathroom. Life goes on, as if normal, though every moment is colored by this heavy, invisible burden. Amelia tries counseling, suggests we talk to a therapist or a pastor. But I can't bring myself to share our darkest secret with a stranger. She goes alone a few times. She returns puffy-eyed, but calmer. Eventually, I agree to speak with her in a more structured way, if only for the sake of our son. We sit at the kitchen table one evening, coffee cups in front of us, the overhead lamp casting a dim circle of light. "I need to ask you something," I begin, my voice low, measured. She braces herself. "Do you regret it? What you did with him?" Her eyes immediately fill with tears. "Yes. God, yes. Every single day." She exhales shakily. "I never wanted to hurt you. I messed up. I was lonely. You were always working, traveling for conferences, and I felt invisible. Tom was just there. It happened once, and I hated myself for it. Then it happened again and again, and I couldn't stop. I was weak. A rush of anger flares, but I clench my fist, forcing it down. He was my friend, I manage, voice trembling. Our friend. Did it never occur to you what this would do to me? To us? Tears spill from her eyes. I was selfish, I know. I have no excuse. I wasn't thinking straight. There were moments I tried to end it, but he made me feel alive. I'm not blaming him. It was my choice too. But I never expected you to find out this way. And I never meant for our son. She chokes on the words. I fix her with a hollow stare. He is my son, whether the blood test says so or not. That won't change. But as for you and me, I trail off, not sure how to finish. I watch her crumble in front of me, shoulders shaking. I feel an urge to comfort her. Isn't that what I used to do, hold her when she cried? But the memory of betrayal sears me. I remain still. We end that conversation with no clear resolution, just tears and a cold silence. But at least it's out in the open. There's no more lying, no more charade. She sleeps in the guest room most nights. Sometimes I hear her muffled sobs through the wall. I stare at the ceiling, locked in my own prison of conflicting emotions. Time keeps marching on. My mother stops by one afternoon, just to talk. I sense she wants to make sure I'm not slipping into depression. She finds me in the backyard, standing near the shed. She gently touches my shoulder. "Son," she says, "come inside. Let's talk." I let her lead me. In the kitchen, she makes tea, fiddling with the kettle as though searching for the right words. When she finally speaks, her voice is soft. "Whatever you decide about your marriage, don't punish yourself forever. You didn't fail." I sip the tea, not meeting her eyes. It doesn't feel that way. She pats my hand, and for a moment, I'm a little boy again, seeking solace. "You saved his life, James. You did the right thing, even though he wronged you. That says something about the man you are." I swallow, a lump in my throat. But was it right, Mom? I sometimes think it was just a twisted way of punishing him. I gave him life with one hand and banished him with the other. She searches my face. "Only you can answer that. But you have a good heart. You always did. Don't let bitterness poison what's left of your life." I nod, tears threatening to break. She gives me a gentle hug. I let myself sink into it for a moment, inhaling her familiar scent. When she leaves, I feel lighter and heavier at the same time. Finally, the day comes when Amelia tries one last approach. It's late evening. She stands in the doorway to my bedroom, twisting the hem of her shirt, eyes glistening. "I miss you," she says quietly. I sit on the bed, running a hand over my face. I don't know if I can be what I was. She steps closer, carefully, as if afraid to spook me. "I understand. I just want you to know that I love you. I never stopped. And if it takes the rest of our lives for you to forgive me, I'll wait. If you can't, I accept that too. But I owe it to you to try." I meet her gaze. Her vulnerability pierces me. We stay like that a long moment, neither sure if bridging this chasm is possible. Finally, she takes a shaky breath and leaves. In the weeks after, we stumble through a precarious routine. We speak more openly, even if it's painful. We lean on each other where we can for the sake of our son. Sometimes we share a sad smile at dinner. The tension eases, just enough that we can coexist without constant bitterness. Does it mean we'll heal? I don't know. I'm not naive enough to think everything will be fixed. The scars are deep, and trust isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight, if ever. But we keep moving forward, step by step, day by day. Slowly, I begin to reclaim pieces of my life. I go for morning runs again. I start reading bedtime stories to my son with genuine warmth in my voice, not forced positivity. Amelia tries to engage me in small talk about her marketing projects, and I don't recoil. We're civil, sometimes even kind. But in the back of my mind, the memory of Tom, and everything we lost, still looms. I've come to realize, though, that no matter how fierce the betrayal, the real enemy is letting the pain define you forever. I stand in the bathroom one morning, looking at myself in the mirror. I see the lines of stress etched around my eyes. But I also see a man who refused to become cruel, who still tries to do right by those he cares about, even if they broke his heart. Perhaps that's enough. Perhaps that's all I have left. When I walk into the kitchen that morning, Amelia is there, flipping pancakes for our son. She glances at me, tentative. "Would you like some?" she asks softly. I open my mouth to refuse, but something makes me say, "Yes, please." I take a seat at the table, my old seat. My son beams at me, syrup on his chin. Amelia sets a plate in front of me. My mind flicks to that first moment I began this story, sitting before an empty plate. This time, the plate isn't empty. It's piled with pancakes, hot and golden. I thank her quietly. She nods, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Outside, the city is waking up. Cars pass, horns sound faintly, neighbors start their daily routines. Inside our house, it's far from perfect. The hush of secrets lingers in the corners. The scars remain. But there's also a small sense of possibility. Like we might find a way to keep living, to heal in some fashion, even if it's slow and uncertain. We eat together, talking softly about the day's schedule. My son chatters happily about something at school. Amelia and I exchange a glance, an understanding that we have to keep going, for him if not for ourselves. I reach for the plate, feeling its warmth, tasting the sweetness on my tongue. My heart still aches, but there's a resolve now, a quiet determination that I won't let this betrayal define me. I will carry the scars, but I will not be consumed by them. When I finish, I set my fork down and meet Amelia's gaze. There's a moment of silence between us, heavy with all that's unspoken. Then she moves to clear my plate, and I catch her hand gently. It's not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way she wants. But it's an acknowledgement that we're both still here, still trying. Our son laughs at something, breaking the tension. Amelia gives a small smile, tears shining at the corners of her eyes, and continues collecting the dishes. I remain at the table, shoulders less tense, breathing a bit easier. One day at a time. Maybe that's all I can promise. But it's enough to keep the walls from caving in. And deep inside, beyond the anger and the regret, beyond the guilt and the betrayal, a faint spark of hope lingers. I couldn't destroy it entirely, even at my lowest. Maybe that's what it means to survive. Maybe that's what it means to love, in the aftermath of everything. I inhale slowly, letting the noise of the morning bustle fill my ears, drowning out the silence that once threatened to consume me. And I decide, for now, that I'll live with that.